All right, so Cub dropped off this Surepath, and I know you guys got a whole lot of questions about this, and some questions that I've got that I'm going to answer, is why do you need to set on this if it's automatic, automation and things like that? Well, the automation on this is not fully autonomous. So the way this works is you've got this GPS unit that's on top right here. Once it locks on the satellite, and I'm going to show you guys, so basically you just start it up, and this will automatically, once it gets power to it from the battery, start trying to lock on to the GPS. And when the guys were out here from Cub, they said they think this runs off Verizon, but it may have several other transponders in it, in case you're in a different area that doesn't have that satellite signal. But what this machine will do is it will automatically make straight paths. So I'm going to show you guys on there how it works. And you've got these buttons on top. So over here, once it lights up green, so on your pad, when you give it power and you start it, this will automatically start blinking. And you can see the please wait, which is blue, and then it'll turn green. And once it turns green, you can set your lines. And then on here, you've got this button here. And so when you get to where you want to start at, you basically hit this button and then drive to wherever else you want to be and hit the button again. So let's say that I want to make a straight shot from right here to that tree over there. I'll put my mower right here first, and then I will go all the way over to there. It doesn't matter if I zigzag or whatever, and go to that tree and hit the button. It will make the straightest path possible to that tree. And I mean, we're going to see how straight it is, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to mow this entire part, and you guys can see my stripes. I have no problem making straight stripes if I want to. This way I contour to the heel, and you can go back and look in the video. This is later in the season. This is October when I put this video out, but I've been putting nitrogen on my grass, and you can see how thick and lush it is. I haven't cut it in about 2 weeks. So it's not getting as much sun as normal, but it's actually pretty thick for this cut. But I wanted to try this machine out and see how well the GPS worked and how many times it would kick out, what it kicked out for, or if it kicks out at all. It may never kick out. But also, one of the things for me was, let's say I get to this tree and I want to go around it for some reason. So like in here, I've got this, and this tree. Now, when I get to it, I have to go around at some point. And so I think basically that I can just drive around it and then hit the button, and it'll go right back in line to where I was directly at. And we're going to see if that works out today or not. I think it will, and I think this is a really cool machine. Now, who is this for? That was the next question I got so many times. This ain't for the average homeowner. I mean, this here is well above $20,000 to get it with this unit. And it is about $1,000 per year after the first year. The first year you get this free with it. And so after the first year, you have to pay roughly $1,000 to do that. But what I wanted to see was, in my mind, how efficient is this machine? So let's say I've got to wait 10 minutes to get this started, and it links up, and we'll see how long it takes once it's linked. But let's see how long it works out here. I'm approximately 5 to 6 miles out of town, so I'm not real far out of town. But what I wanted to see was, would this machine link up pretty quickly, or did it take forever? As in, if you sent this out, if you're a big contractor, and let's say you've got 8, huge properties. You've got a couple football fields, you've got a couple of stadiums, you've got a couple of big warehouse places that have massive properties around them. The reason you would want this machine is because you could send a novice guy out. So you could literally take a guy that knew nothing about striping, nothing about mowing. And what I'm going to do to prove that is I'm going to put my wife on this machine, and I'm going to let her make stripes in the yard and see if she can do it. Because if I put her on my hyperdrive, which we'll do that too, and I'll let her try to make stripes in the yard in comparison to this. So what this gives you is the ability to have a massive operation, and you can buy these units like this. And if you've got 4 new guys, you don't have to hold their hand and walk them along. You just literally show them how to do this right here, which takes about 5 seconds to learn. There's no skill set to it. It's literally just one button that you push, and then you can adjust right here your cutting width, how efficient you want it to be. So you can have very little overlap, or you can have quite a bit of overlap, which is pretty neat. And as you can see there, you can adjust this dial to most efficient, you know, however you want to do it. And maybe you've got a property that has a 2-week or 3-week cut. You wouldn't want it to be as efficient, so your deck isn't taking on as much in it trying to chop it up. Now, this is a 72-inch. I normally cut with a 66 because a 72 tends to, if I don't cut high over 4 inches, scalp on my property in several spots. And you probably can't tell in video, but if you go back and you watch some of the previous content that I've put out, down here at the bottom of the hill, there's a huge dip in it. And then this crest over here has a dip and another dip. That lip over there is an embankment, so you have to go up and over. Most decks want to scalp at the top, so you have to watch and you have to float your foot over it. This deck has a really nice floating system that doesn't lock out at the top. That's one thing that drives me crazy about my hyperdrive. It locks out, but I love using these Kawasaki motors, which is on this. But we're going to see how fast we can go, how easy it is, because the great thing about using this is I don't have to put my hands on the wheel after I get the GPS set. So I can literally hold this camera while I'm cutting and not even have to think about it, because all I've got to do is push these 2 pedals. It's going to steer for me. So it's fully autonomous steering. So we're going to get our 2 points set, and then we're going to see how well this does. And I'm going to cut this front part and just see in comparison to previous things. And you can see here, like if you look down this lip, it's got a little curve right there. And even if you're, you know, I'm not a professional lawn care guy, but I, without a doubt, know that I could go up against just about any of them and stripe as well or better than a lot of them. And the thing that I notice with lawn care companies is, if you're an owner, it's not like you're on the equipment every day. So you're not going to be putting in the time and effort to mow your yard or other yards. If you're a huge landscape company, you know, you've usually got people working under you. So the great thing about this machine is going to be, is you have the freedom to just send this out with anybody. If you got a guy, it's his first day, you can send this out. And from what I've seen, he's going to produce stripes better than someone who's been on it for 4, 5, maybe even 10 years. And it's going to look perfect every time. It takes all the guesswork out of it. Takes you having the stress of having to pick 2 points and stay on point. You know, if you've got if you look at this strip here that I'm talking about that I mow, I mean, that's longer than a football field down to the farthest point over there. And my backyard is the same way. And so you have to really know what you're doing to produce a good stripe on that far of a span. But let's see what we got with this, and let's do a couple stripes. All right, so we're going to start it up. We're going to see how long it takes it to catch GPS. So watch these lights here. Once they turn green, it's locked on to the GPS. about 35 seconds in. There we go, we're locked on. So it took it roughly 40 to 45 seconds to lock on. We're ready to go. You can see here, GPS ready with it green. If we're going too fast, it'll go yellow. And if we get in a red zone, that means that we're gonna have to grab the wheel. So let's set two spots, and I'll show you how easy this is. Just go right here. All right, so our first marker, so we're going to set our first thing right here. So all I do is push this button. All right, so there's my first line. Now I'm going to go over here and look at this. I'm going to go all over the place. I'm going to zigzag, make all kinds of crazy lines that don't make any sense. And I'll show you how cool this is. So my other line is going to be right here in this tree. All right, so then we're going to hit the other line. So it says we are ready to go. Now we're going to kick the blades on. Let's see. I hit this other lane, when I want to turn lanes, it should automatically shift me in the next lane. So let's see if this makes a straight shot. Don't let that grass blow on you. I tell you what, this is extremely cool. And if you've never used one of these, I'd recommend getting a demo on one. It's absolutely a game changer if you're wanting perfect stripes. All right, we're going to hit it again. So there we go, turning those around. So let's see our overlap. So far, so good. I mean, even on this extremely gnarly hillside that a lot of mowers slip down, this thing's keeping my overlap, I mean, perfect. So look at that. And you can cover a lot of ground with this 72-inch machine. All right, here we go. I'm going to turn it the other way. So I just hit this. It's going to automatically turn me. Look there. Look at those stripes. I mean, they're just flawlessly perfect. Both directions. And I've not touched the steering wheel once. All I'm doing is sitting here, got my armrest on, just resting my arm and pushing the throttle. And that thing is just hammered away. Got a beautiful cut to it too. I mean, no stragglers, even though these blades hit it again. I mean, I'm even out in the concrete. There we go. Back at it. Look at that. Like I said, you can stick someone on here. This is the second time I've used this machine, and it's absolutely perfect. And you know, I'm not doing a thing. Look at that. Kicked out. Wonder why it kicked out. Now let's see if it'll go back into its spot. So it kicked out. Now what? Go back. Back in its lane. Okay, so I had to hit this button to get it back on the GPS, and it steered me back to it. So if it jumps out of the lane for some reason, and I don't know, maybe I was going too fast, so I have to look back at the video. You just hit this button and then hit the throttle, and it'll drive you right back to your spot. So if you come up on a tree or something and you're needing to get back in that spot, you just hit this button if you manually start to drive it. All right, so I drove all the way down at the bottom of my shop, and I'm gonna hit this and see if it'll drive me back to where I need to go. Maybe if I get straight, I'm not sure. Oh, it's trying to get to it, but it's going to go the shortest path to it. It's going to drive me right into the wall. All right, so let that out. All right, let me get up here where it won't hit anything and try it. So basically, you couldn't be with a bunch of obstacles between you because it's going to take the shortest path. It's programmed like GPS, and it just wants to go straight to where it's supposed to be. So let's see if it'll do it right here. All right. Okay, so it picks the closest path to where you would be at. So even without me cutting all the way over here, it knows that this is where that next line would start at. So I'm gonna take it out, go back over here, and see if it will take me, once I get close to this one, to that marker. All right, so this would have been my next path. See if it locks on. Look at that, it locked right back on. Perfectly. So basically, you could go over there 6 stripes over and not even go in the middle. You could make 3 or 4 stripes here, then skip that whole part, make 3 or 4 stripes over there, and it would still bring you back to an accurate spot in your GPS. I mean, that's wild. All right, so I went ahead and went over my hillside and come back, and it seems like when you get this thing around trees or anything that's way above your head, that it will lose signal to this. And I've noticed every time I've come down by this tree line that it lost signal, and then I had to wait probably 20 to 30 seconds for it to lock back on. But I'll give you guys at the end kind of my thoughts on that. All right, so when I got down at the tree line, it kicked this out again. Every time I went down close to the tree line, it's kicked this out. And now I cannot get it to lock back onto my line for me to automatically, it just blinks yellow, which says I'm going too fast. But my guess is it can't find its spot back to the GPS. So I think unless you was in super open areas that were well GPSed, as in perfect signal in that area, this would be a no-go. Like, I don't think in rural areas this is going to be a good outfit to have. Now, what you can see is how well it does, and I've striped from all the way over there all the way back down to that tree line, which is probably 2 football fields altogether, and all the lines meet up, and I'll show you as I go over there, but I can't get it to lock back onto my GPS right here. All right, so I've got some bad news. All right, so it's cloudy today. As you can see, there's an overcast in my tree line. So what would happen was I would drive this down, go all the way down, and then it would click red if I got within 10 feet of that tree line. Well, once it did that and it was overcast, if it loses its GPS enough that it loses its like memory of your pattern, then it's going to kick it out to where it may not be able to kick back onto that pattern. So the problem I see with it, let's say you've made 15 stripes through here. For some reason, you lose your GPS, a cloud gets in the way, and then you can't get it to connect back. You're going to have to somehow try to figure out how to get those stripes back in the perfect direction that they were in comparison to your new stripes. So that might be fun to try to do. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at one of these. Futuristically, Cub Cadet needs to have some kind of memory on this, especially for $1,000 a year. That's absolutely nuts. So you basically, if you're going to send this out, you need a sunny day and probably nothing that's going to interfere with your GPS. As in, you couldn't go under building awnings, under trees, anything to that nature that could make it lose GPS if you do it so many times. Like I said, I'm just, probably 10 stripes into it, and it's lost GPS, and I basically had to shut it off and call, and I actually called the rep to talk to him about it, and he, that's what he explained. So keep that in mind. So my final thoughts on something like this, and I know there is several companies that are coming up with these GPS style units. Now, some of them, even at GIE last year, had sonar systems and were fully autonomous, but they were all run by satellite GPS. So all of them will have the issue of, if you are by huge tree lines or things of that nature, huge buildings, or if it's overcast like today, I mean, the sun has been like this all day behind the clouds, then you're going to have issues with the GPS. I couldn't get it to lock on at all after I did those couple of times, so I ended up just remowing everything with my Hustler Hyperdrive. With all that being said, this is an excellent mower in perfect, ideal conditions. And that's the thing that, to me, makes something like this a very, very, very iffy purchase. Now, I know most people are mowing in the summertime and the sun's out and everything like that, but the trees and stuff like that were making me lose GPS multiple times. And then once it does it so many times, it may lose its lock on completely, and then it doesn't have a memory. So it's not like if you had this and you had 50 yards that you could save 50 different yards in it. It just uses GPS 2 points to set your whole coordinates for that day where you're cutting at. And as soon as you shut it off and it loses signal, then you got to figure out how to get it back on those stripes, which you could just go down it. But if you was 2 inches off on the left and you set your 2 targets, you're going to be 2 inches off on your whole stripes. So there's a lot of factors into having this type of mower. Now, don't get me wrong, this has its place, but I just think there's a lot of room for error in something like this, especially to cost as much money as it does. You know, if you look at most people buy a mower, they keep it for 3 to 4 years. So you buy this mower, it's, you know, $26,000 to $30,000, and then it's $1,000 per year. The first year's free, so you'd have $3,000 to $4,000 extra on top of that. Just, you know, like I said, it's going to be one of them things that I think it's going to be a small niche that it fits. I guess I'm about to get back on Old Faithful, but I want to show you guys something hilarious. So my son went down and got the push mower, and I guess he was trying to help me, and I come back up and he has scalped this whole area of my yard. I mean, I didn't even catch him till he was through this part here, but I want you guys to look at his lines. He didn't go directly forward and backwards on all of them, but look at that. That's with a push mower. He's 4 years old. I mean, dude's got skills already. Who do you guys think produces a better stripe? Hustler or Cub Cadet? I know who's faster, but let's see who produces a better stripe. That was a 66-inch Hustler Hyperdrive. Here's a 72-inch Cub Cadet. That's a Surepath stripe.